Today's lesson is going to be on the area of a triangle. Let's look at these two triangles in this slide right here. Who can tell me what the difference between the two triangles are? I'll give you guys a second or two to figure it out on your own. Any guesses so far? Well, triangle 1 has two sides and one angle. Those two sides are 7 inches and 4 inches, and our given angle is 96 degrees. Triangle 2 has three sides. Side A is 10, side B is 17, and side C is 11. How would we find the area of the first triangle? Well, we can use the area of a triangle formula. The area of a triangle formula is as follows. Area is equal to 1/2 times the given side times the given side times the sine of the given angle. We had went over this formula in class last week, but we're going to go over it again today. So our two sides, what are they? 7 and 4. What's our angle? 96 degrees. So we're just going to plug the two sides into where it says side, and we're going to plug our angle in for where it says given angle. What's important here is that our calculators are in degree mode and not in radian mode, because if we're in radians, our answers are going to be thrown off a little bit. And instead of using 1/2, what should we use? We should use 0.5. Because if we use 1/2, we have to make sure we're putting parentheses around that. Otherwise, your calculator's most likely not going to recognize that you're doing 1 divided by 2 times 7 times 4. It's just going to it's going to do 1/2. 1 divided by 2 times 7 times 4, not half of 7 times 4. So we plug this in. So I kind of break it down step by step. What I personally like to do first is I like to multiply 7 times 4 and then multiply it by 1/2. So when we do that, we get 14 sine 96, because all we just do is bring down that sine of 96. And then there's two options for you guys on how to put it in your calculator. You could put it in as is. So you would literally just hit 14 and then the sine button and then put 96 and then close the parenthesis. Or we can do 14 and then hit the multiplication sign and then input sine 96, close our parentheses. I'll give you guys a second to do that in your calculators. What do we get? Our area for this particular triangle is 13.9. Now, how would we find the area of triangle 2? What did we say was so funky about this triangle? We only have three sides. We have absolutely no angles given to us. So we can't use the formula we just went over. Why not? Because we don't have an angle. We have three sides instead. Technically, we could find the angle using the law of cosines, but that's a little more work, because remember, we got to do the cos. You can either use cos A, B, or C. That's a little more involved. That's a little bit more work, because once you would do that, you'd have to use the law of cosines and then go and use the area of the triangle formula, the one that we just did a couple seconds ago in this video. So for this particular triangle here, when we have three sides, there's an easier method. You don't have to go ahead and find that missing angle. There's got to be an easier method. That easier method to find the area of a side triangle is Heron's formula. Heron's formula, once again, area of a side or SSS triangle. So last week I made you guys watch a little 1-minute documentary on Heron of Alexandria. Who was he? Well, he created Heron's formula, which was, once again, the area of a side triangle. Some fun facts about Heron. He created the first vending machine. His first vending machine, it dispensed holy water. So you would put a coin in and holy water would come out. Much like today, you guys go to the vending machine, you put some money in, you're going to get your soda or your little snack. Well, these vending machines, you put a coin in and holy water came out. He also created the first steam engine. It was called the Heron engine, but unfortunately, his invention was forgotten about and never used properly until many, many, many years later in 1577. So, Heron's formula is basically as follows. We're going to have three sides of any triangle. The formula is as follows. Area is equal to the square root of s times s minus a times s minus b times s minus c. But notice, what's so funky about this formula? We have an s in here. There was no s anywhere in the triangle because we had three sides. So s is known as the semi-perimeter of the triangle. To get the semi-perimeter, there's a separate formula that we have to use. So to find s, we're going to use the following formula. S is equal to 1/2 times a plus b plus c. Once again, the semi-perimeter, we're going to use all of the sides. So we're going to add up all the sides and multiply them times 1/2. So Heron's formula is a two-part process. First, we got to find the semi-perimeter. Then, once we find our semi-perimeter, which is S, we got to plug S in and all of the given sides into the area formula and solve. So first, you do S is equal to 1/2 times A plus B plus C. Then, once we find S, we're going to plug S into every single spot there's an S in that area formula. So there's 4 S's, and then we have 3 sides. Each of those sides is going to be plugged in, and then we're going to see that semi-perimeter, whatever we find that number to be, we're going to see it in the formula 4 times. So our area, once again, is equal to the square root of S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. Remember, in the semi-perimeter formula, since we have a fraction of 1/2, it's best to use 0.5, use the decimal instead of that 1/2, because once again, your calculator might not recognize, what you're doing when you put it in your calculator. Calculator doesn't realize it, so use 0.5 instead of 1/2. So as a little recap for you guys, our angles correspond to the capital letters. Where are our capital letters in a triangle? How do we name a triangle? Well, we're going to name this one ABC. So angle A is on the inside of the triangle. Angle A is in the bottom left. Angle B is going to be at the top, and it's, once again, capital letters. So we got big B up there. And then angle C is down in the bottom. Angles on the inside, so we have capital C. Our sides are going to correspond to the lowercase letters. So angles are on the inside, sides are on the outside. Sides are opposite their corresponding angle. So let's look at this and think about it. Side A, where would side A be? If angle A is down here in the bottom left, side A is going to have to be opposite, so it's now going to be on the right-hand side of the triangle. Angles on the inside, sides on the outside. Next, side B, where would side B be? Side B is going to be on the bottom, because angle B is up in the top, side is opposite the angle, so little b is down at the bottom. And angle C is over here, so where would side C be? Side C is opposite angle C, so we're going to have side C over here. In this first example, we're going to find the area to the nearest tenth. So remember, nearest tenth is 1 decimal point. In this particular triangle, it's just labeled A, B, and C. What do we have? Do we have any of those angles given on the inside? No, we don't. Could we technically go and find one of those angles? Yes, we could. We could do it using the law of cosines. Is it a lot more work? Yes. So let's just go ahead and use Heron's formula. So for this particular triangle, side A is 6 inches, side B is 12 inches and side C is 8 inches. What's the first thing we got to do when we're solving for this triangle or trying to find the area of a side triangle? First, we have to find the semi-perimeter. Once again, what's that formula? We're going to use this one. S is equal to 1/2 times A plus B plus C. So we're going to do S is equal to 1/2 times 6 plus 12 plus 8, because side A was 6, side B was 12, and side C was 8. Once we add them all up, so what I personally do is I add 6 plus 12 plus 8. I add those all up together and then multiply it by 0.5, and then we find our S is equal to 13. But we're not done there yet. That is not the area of the triangle. That's only the semi-perimeter of the triangle. What do we do once we find our S? Now we're going to plug it into the actual area of a triangle, which is, for this particular triangle, when we have 3 sides, we're going to use Heron's formula. Once again, Heron's formula is area is equal to the square root of S times S minus A times S minus B times S minus C. So once again, our S was 13, our A was 6, our B was 12, and our C was 8. So basically, plug all of that given information in there, and this is what we're going to get. Now we look at it and we're kind of like, what do we do first? First thing I do is I bring down the square root and I bring down that first semi-perimeter, because that's just on the outside. We don't do nothing with it just yet. I would subtract 13 minus 6 and we get 7, 13 minus 12 and we get 1, 13 minus 8 and we get 5. Your next step is going to be, I don't necessarily put the square root sign in yet. I do 13 times 7. Then we get that answer, multiply it by 1, and then multiply that answer by 5. And then we should get our area is equal to the square root of 455. Now what do? Now, because we have the square root, we take the square root of 455 and we get 21.3 inches squared. Because that triangle was labeled with inches, keep it as when we deal with area. Area is whatever unit we have squared. So our unit for this particular triangle was inches. So our area for this triangle is 21.3 inches squared. In example 2, let's try to find the area to the nearest tenth, so 1 decimal point. What's so funky about this triangle? Did I use A, B, and C? No, I use J, H, and D. Notice the sides are no longer labeled A, B, and C. It's okay. The formula is still going to work. Instead of using A, B, and C, we're just going to use J, H, and D. So side J is 8.6, side H is 12.4, and side D is 5.3. Let's solve it. What's the first thing we have to do? The first thing we have to do is find our semi-perimeter. So for this particular one, because we didn't have sides A, B, and C, we had J, H, and D. Our formula now could be S is equal to 1/2 times J plus H plus D. So we're going to plug that all in. Instead of using 1/2, I'm using 0.5. Side J was 8.6, side H was 12.4, and side D was 5.3. So we just go ahead and plug in our sides in for each of their letters. And then what I like to do first is I like to add 8.6 plus 12.4 plus 5.3, and we get 26.3. I didn't multiply yet by 1/2, so I have 1/2 times 26.3, and I get our semi-perimeter as 13.15. Now my suggestion for you guys is to not round this part out yet. Don't round it to 13.2. If it's a small decimal like this one, if it's only like 2 or 3 places, I wouldn't round. If you had more than, I would say, 3 or 4, then I would maybe keep 2 decimal points, but make sure you guys are showing me where you round, because if you just rounded this to 13, your answer, your entire problem will kind of be like thrown off. We'd get different answers. So keep it here as 13.15. Don't round it just yet to 13.2. You could do that later in the problem, but don't round it just yet. What do we do once we get our semi-perimeter? Next, we got to plug it into Heron's formula. So once again, because instead of using A, B, and C, I used J, H, and D. Now, wherever there is A, B, and C, we just fill in J, H, and D. So our new formula becomes area is equal to the square root of S times S minus J times S minus H times S minus D. This point now, do not start to round off. Don't round off the decimals. Keep the decimals exactly as they are. So wherever there's an S, we're going to plug in 13.15, and J was equal to 8.6, so we plug that in. H was equal to 12.4, so we plug that in. And D was equal to 5.3, so we plug that in. Once again, like I told you, I like to subtract 13.15 minus 8.6, and we get 4.55, I'm sorry. 13.15 minus 12.4, and we get 0.75, and 13.15 minus 5.3, and we get 8.75. Now at this point, once we get here, I would do 13.15 times 4.55 times 0.75 times 7.85. Once we do that in our calculator, we'll get our area is equal to the square root of 352.2638. I went ahead and I rounded off. I kept it at 4 decimal points. Wherever you guys at this point round off, I would definitely say try to keep it to 4 decimal points, but if you round off before that, make sure you guys are showing me where you were rounding off. Once we take the square root of that, we're going to get 18.8. So the area of that triangle was 18.8. So as a little recap, when we have 3 sides and absolutely no angles given, your first step is you're going to have to find the semi-perimeter. Once we find our semi-perimeter, we're going to plug everything that we know into Heron's formula. So you're going to know your S, and then we're going to know our 3 sides. You should never get a number when plugging into Heron's formula. Why? Because we can't take the square root of a negative number. So if in your subtraction, I'll show you, if at some point over here, instead of, if we did by accident 8.6 minus 13.15, we shouldn't get a negative 4.55. It should always be S, our semi-perimeter, minus the side. So once again, you can never take the square root of a negative number. If you get a negative number, we probably did something wrong. So some of your daily reminders. Your homework is posted in Plus Portals. It's posted, it's up there. You guys have to show all your work for these problems. You just can't write your answer. I need to see your name at the top of the page. Once you do your homework, you have to email me a picture of your completed homework prior to the start of our scheduled class time. If you don't do this if you just decide you're not going to hand in your homework, you'll get an incomplete. If your homework is late, you hand it in after the start of our class, it's also going to be late and points are going to come off. So if you want full credit, I need to see all your work. I need to see your name at the top of the page, and you need to email it to me before the class starts. Your quarterly packets that I gave you guys out in class last week, they're still due no later than Tuesday, March 24th. Each day it's late is going to result in a 5-point deduction. Once again, what you guys are going to have to do for your quarterly packets is, if you have the packet, if not, I'm going to post it up on Plus Portals in case you guys misplaced it or left it in school. If you don't have a printer, if you don't want to print it out, you can do all of your work on a separate sheet of paper. I need to see all of your work. If there is no work and you just give me an answer to that problem, I don't care if the answer is correct, it is marked wrong. All work must be shown. And then what you guys also have to do is, your name has to be at the top of every single page that you write on. So if it takes 4 pages back to back for you to show me all your work for your quarterly page, your name must be on all 4 of those pages back to back. If your name's not on there and you show no work, you guys will receive no credit for it. And if it's late, each day it's late, it's a 5-point deduction. And you also have to hand it in at the start of our class time. If you hand it in at the end of class, or if you hand it in at the later in the day, 5 points come off. Your packet is now late. We're going to have a quiz on the area of triangles on Thursday, March 19th. So you're going to have Heron's Formula, and we're going to have the area of a triangle where you have 2 sides and that 1 angle. If you guys have any questions, the best way to get in touch with me, you can send me an email to my send me an email. I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible, or send me an email through Plus Portals. If you guys have any questions on this, you can either live chat me in the Google Classroom or send me an email, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as possible.